Fascinating.
Let's go to you.
Hi, Ahmad. Thank you. Thanks for having me on this on Dastaangoi Volume 3, and it's an honor to be a part of it, and along with the likes of Shima Kirmani ji and Zaib and Abu Bakr. So awesome. It was inspiring to see her talk as well in her performance. So yeah, so this is great. What I was going to do is, I guess, talk about a bit about my sort of journey as a classical musician and as someone who's been exposed to Pakistani music throughout his life, uh, and it's not genre specific, whether it's folk music, classical, pop, rock, everything. So my I'd like to share that with all of you today. Uh, First of all, I don't consider myself as a classical musician. I'm not a purist, unfortunately. Uh, I feel like, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. It can go both ways. But the good thing is that I've always, uh, thanks to my family, who have always encouraged and supported me. But most of all, uh, my exposure to my grandfather and the teachings that he imparted on me. I think that's what has really brought a lot of, I guess, perspective when it comes to music. And that perspective, can you hear me by the way? Is it, the sound is
Perfect.
all right? So the perspective that I got at a time when I was in my teens, late teens, to when I started at NCA, National College of Arts, that's where basically my journey as a musician begins. Um, he always encouraged us to look to our music, our culture, and get the most out of that before going into other musics, like other musical cultures and other ideas. First, you have to own your own traditions, and that I think is a major part of my upbringing and my training. So I considered his teachings very important for me during that time, during my formative years. So as a sitar player, um, being in Pakistan, it was tough to get that kind of exposure, that kind of inspiration, because I mean, there's a lack of it here. I mean, there are very good sitar players here for sure, but that sense of community, that sense of belonging to a certain community where musicians come together and sort of share ideas and practice together, that was missing here. So I got that a lot during my visits to India, and I started during college when I was in NCA. I would go to Delhi and learn from Ustad Shujat Khan Sahib. I was very fortunate. I had access to all these great musicians during that time, thanks to Raza Kazim, who's my grandfather, thanks to my family who had these connections. Um, but at the same time, I was also cousins with Ali Noor and Ali Hamza, who are in the band called Noori. So on one side, I'd see them create their own compositions and perform music, and I was a major fan of their music. Every time they came up with a new track, I tried to, you know, bootleg it or try and, चुपके से मैं अपना एक यूएसबी तो हाँ यूएसबी शायद होता था उस टाइम तक. So I tried to steal them, much to their dismay. And then, but just for myself, I love to listen to their stuff. So it was that side of, where technology and this, worldly sort of idea of music, where you connect with audiences all over, right? That's what I guess the kind of music they did. They were trying to connect to a wider audience, and I think that inspired me to sort of look into that part. But for me, because I started sitar at the age of 12, and I learned from ustads, many ustads, Ashraf Sharif Khan, who was based in Lahore during that time. And I think he, you know, is, it's because of him that I stuck to this instrument. I was lucky enough to learn from him, and he made learning so easy and so much fun. I think the connection with a student or a shagird and ustad, that has to be established from as the from the like the earliest as possible. If that doesn't happen, then you sort of become demotivated. So I think that uh, sort of laid the groundwork for me to stick to this. And then I guess uh, 2009, there was a sort of breakthrough where I performed on Coke Studio with Noori, and that was quite a eye-opening. And I mean, of course, it was such a amazing opportunity. And good thing is that that song received some traction, but I was never satisfied with how I was playing. So I applied for the scholarship to go to Kolkata and learn at the Sangeet Research Academy there. And that was a renowned academy institution for teaching and grooming young musicians into becoming professional classical musicians. And what they did was that they would have students come, not too many, just students. So basically, the setup was that there were 8 or 9 gurus and ustads there, who are, of course, top class, performing all over the world. They were basically like Pandit Ajay Chakraborty, Pandit Ulhas Kashalkar, Ustad Mashkoor Ali Khan, uh, Pandit Buddhadev Das Gupta, who passed away, I think, a few years ago. And there were like 30 scholars, they were called, right? Scholars over there who would stay on campus and just spend the whole time learning and practicing music. And that kind of exposure for me was so important. The sense of getting together with 4 or 5 other people and sharing ideas about music and discussing music and practicing with them, and also going with them to all these sammelans, right? Festivals, music festivals. I remember the excitement we all used to share when we'd go. Um like it would start at 6 in the evening and go until 5 in the morning. And the the most amazing part was that we were allowed access to the green room, where we could spend time with these ustads and teachers and listen to them joke around and share stories, and then do a bit of their practice. For them, practice wasn't essential because they were such experts already, and that's because of the 10 to 12 hours a day that they would put in uh, with their practice, sadhana, isko kehte hain. So that was sort of such a unforgettable, such a memorable and important uh, trip for me. And I spent about 8 months there. And the other thing is that because you were committed to just doing this, there was nothing else for you to do. You had to motivate yourself to practice, and you got that motivation easily. But that focus, that sort of environment where you get that sort of those learnings and those the different compositions that and the different ideas that you get just by sitting with those people. I mean, that was one of the most priceless times for me. And when I came back, then I said, of course, uh, gave a few performances here and there. Uh, but because of my grandfather's of Raza's teachings, uh, my satisfaction with just playing classical music the way it is played, uh, it wasn't uh, complete, because yeah, sure, you could learn that kind of music, but he always thought that what is the purpose behind it? Because classical music is supposed to be the highest level of art. I mean, aesthetics wise, of course, folk and all these other forms, they sort of communicate with you um, directly, and there's certainly directly communicate with your emotions. Uh, but classical music is more; it goes more deeper. There's more depth in it uh, because he came up with this theory that it was based on a certain um, aspect of music called shruti, which are evocative sounds, like sounds that sort of communicate with you on that very instant, right? And that's why he thought that music is more about this technicalities, and that's why I thought that there's you have to explore it in other dimensions as well. That's so for that, then I would sort of dabble with compositions and compositions just by taking by using software and computers. I try and explore that with the sitar a lot more, and that's after my experience in Kolkata, like 2 3 years of performing and sort of trying to figure out what exactly I really wanted from music. I started learning production, and that's in 2014 I went to Shiraz Uppal, quite who was introduced to me by Ali Noor, who's a great friend of his. Uh, he basically, I would go there and just sit there and listen to him put together a whole, music piece, and just ask a few questions. And then you see, it's a very hands-on thing. I think all these things are hands-on. You can't learn the theory of it as much as you want to read about software and all these things that you have to, apply yourself um, practically for that. So that's when I sort of delved into that more and started exploring compositions in that way. And eventually I saw the best of the technological side of music through Coke Studio in 2018, where I was lucky enough to be a part of it as an audio engineer. So that also was quite an eye-opening experience of, how does what are the little nitty-gritties of recording sound, little gritty nitty-gritties of post-production, after the process is done, after the recording is done, what all you have to do. So that kind of was a whole different world from classical music. This is more, it was more mechanical in that sense. But, the good thing is you learned that there's there's a lot of downsides to technology and music, but at the end, if you use it in a way which sort of supports and creates that, you know, it sort of brings the sound of the sitar to a level where it's aesthetically a bit more pleasing. That way it becomes more effective. It has to compensate instead of fix only. So the good thing is that I got that side of music and I got this side of music. So my journey, keeps on fluctuating between the technological side and the more, practice and um, of perfecting sitar as just a solo instrument. But I believe that when you play with others in a group, like you just shared the video with us of so many musicians around the world, making small videos and being a part of a composition. I think that has its own power. And that's why there was this band that we formed back in 2015. Me, Kami Paul, who's a very proficient, one of the best drummers here in Pakistan actually, and Farhan Ali on the bass and Rufus Shazad on the keyboards. So we decided to form a band called Mughal Funk, and we based it on instrumental compositions. And I think we were just doing it for ourselves. We didn't expect to perform with him. But I guess we were encouraged by this one person to, go and present it out there. see what the world has to say. And we did that back in 2017, and I think that really, we were shocked that people actually liked our music and were wanting to listen to it. And we got to perform at different festivals here in Lahore, in Karachi, um, and we eventually got to play one of our songs, one of our instrumentals called Aurangzeb on Coke Studio. So I guess that was encouraging. And the good thing is that you because of that knowledge I had in classical music, I was able to create some original pieces because I had this language, I had this tool kit, right, to create something original and unique. So that's, I guess, the good thing is that I was able to cross over between both worlds. So in a way, it was a blessing. In a way, it's also uh, a bit of you know, a negative thing in the sense that I wasn't able to just focus on one kind of music, right? It's you have to sort of branch out, and as a producer, you have to be able to think and in all genres and be able to, yeah,
Rakae over here, like what I'm listening to, I'm loving the fact, yeah,
yeah.
one thing you say that it's negative, it's not negative, dude. It's this is your perspective, what you're bringing on
It's
to
perspective,
world,
right, right.
and
I know.
to come on to Mole Funk. It's brilliant to kind of hear the
हाँ,
backstory of where you are today, because when you see
हाँ,
और आप the different angles से जब देखते हैं,
बिल्कुल
it's
बिल्कुल.
as to you're not like classically playing it, you're bringing a completely different lens
A different lens. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess you could say that. I guess you could say. But sometimes I feel like, if I was able to just like have वो हाथ भारी करना जिसको कहते हैं ना, जिसमें वो छः
yeah,
छः घंटे आप एक ही चीज को बार बार वैसे वो किया था मैंने दो दो घंटे तो किए थे. I mean, obviously, being in Calcutta, I had to do that, right? I mean, because I remember when we had to present, I mean, so the way they would assess you was that so after 2 or 3 months, every 3 months, they would ask you to perform in front of an audience. And in that audience, you had all these pundits and all these ustads. And it was very daunting and really scary, you know, uh, event because you had to make sure you weren't messing up because they were technically, yeah, they were theoretically listening to you, technically listening to you, and you had to impress them as well. So उस तरह से वो एक होता है ना कि भाई काश maybe at some point I might just do that, but right now, yeah, I am enjoying making music with my peers and with other people. And I think during this COVID, um, this Corona season कह रहा हूँ मैं, but during this pandemic, I think that's what's made us, kept us going is collaborations, and that's happening a lot in Pakistan, which is really
100%.
encouraging.
That's what brought us together as well, right? Like
Exactly,
your
exactly.
journey. And we can't wait to see you perform as well and get to
Yeah. So I'm going to try and give you a little performance of. Well, it's. Let me just put this on the speaker. So I'll try my best to. I was thinking Rag Aman right now, and yeah, can you hear the sound?
yeah.
So I wanted to present a bit of Rag Aman to you, and of course a full classical performance will. That might be a little difficult because that's usually 1 hour long. So I'm going to be playing a little medley in Rag Aman of a classical composition, a more popular one, and sort of like things that you've heard in Pakistani pop music. So, for example, Kinare Kinare, which is also classical, but it was featured in Cook Studio. Then you had Usra Hapar by the late Junaid Jamshed, which is in Rag Aman, and then Aankhon Ki Sagar, which is in Rag Aman. But I'm going to play a bit of alap because I like to start off with that. Alap is basically uh, playing music without rhythm, without any words, of course. And that's just a slow movement, and then moving into the piece with the tabla. So I'm using my electronic tabla here as I couldn't get a beat live. So I hope you guys enjoy this small little piece. So I'm going to present that.
Great.
सखी हेरी यारी पिया बिना सखी हेरी यारी पिया बिना सखी कल ना पड़त मोहे घड़ी पल छिन दिन हेरी यारी पिया बिना ले डूबे हमें ले डूबे हमें आँखों के सामने Thank you. That was